Hey everyone, and welcome to a brand new deep dive from NEXGROW. We're going to be time traveling today.
Yeah, all the way to 2050.
To 2050. We're looking at a
It came out just this year, called Future Mining Scenarios. So it basically lays out four different pictures of what mining could look like by 2050.
Okay, so we've got this crystal ball, right? We're looking into the future of mining.
Yeah.
And this is sort of your cheat sheet.
Yeah.
To what to look for, what trends are coming up.
Absolutely.
And figuring out what does this mean for me.
Yeah.
Right? So buckle up. We're talking trade wars over minerals, robots taking over mines.
That's right.
Even a scenario where the whole world kind of unites.
Yes.
After a massive crisis. So the preface of the report is really interesting. It basically sets the stage, shows us how much our world
depends on raw materials.
Depends on raw materials. Everything from our smartphones to electric cars to,
solar panels, wind turbines.
Even your house. Your house is built with raw materials. So we've got this growing need for minerals. But, getting them isn't simple. The report points out a bunch of challenges. Geopolitics.
Environmental concerns.
Worries about the environment. Even whether, communities will say yes.
Yeah, that social license to operate.
Yeah, it's a real tightrope walk.
Yeah.
So let's jump into that first scenario. Divided dominions.
Okay, so this one, things have kind of gone south.
Yeah.
In terms of cooperation. Countries have formed these big trade blocs, and they're battling it out.
Battling it out.
For control of resources. Imagine your smartphone costs, twice as much because countries are hoarding rare earth minerals. That's the cost of divided dominions.
Okay, that was a bit bleak.
Yeah.
Let's lighten things up with scenario 2. Advancement wave.
All right, this is the one where tech just booms.
Yeah.
It's robots running mines, companies mining asteroids.
Mining asteroids.
Mining space, yeah.
Whoa.
And green tech just explodes.
Okay, so robot miners in space.
Yeah.
Sounds pretty cool. But I have a feeling there's a catch.
There is.
What's the downside here?
So advancement wave, it asks some, tough questions. The benefits of this tech, boom.
Yeah.
They're not shared equally.
I see.
And the report actually suggests that the gap between developed and developing countries
could get worse.
Could actually widen.
Yeah.
And lead to even more inequality.
So all this amazing green tech could actually make global inequality worse.
It makes you wonder, right? Are we just swapping one problem for another?
It's a scary thought. All right, let's move on to scenario 3. Downward spiral. The name's not very promising.
No, not really. This is the one where resource nationalism
takes over. Countries get obsessed with controlling their own resources. They kind of forget.
Forget about working together.
Yeah. Okay. And the world sees. Some serious environmental damage.
Okay.
Global cooperation falls apart. It's a pretty bleak outlook.
Yeah.
For everyone, really.
Yeah.
It almost sounds like the opposite of
the Great Transition, yeah.
Yeah, that we touched on earlier.
It is. And it's interesting. It draws some parallels to what we're seeing today. There's already this trend, right, toward protectionism. A retreat from global cooperation.
Yeah.
Imagine clean water becoming like
a luxury.
A luxury, yeah, because of all the mining pollution.
Wow. That's a sobering thought.
It is. It shows what's at stake,
Okay. Let's end on a more hopeful note.
Okay.
Scenario 4. The Great Transition. This one sounds pretty utopian.
It does. It imagines a world where a global crisis...
Like climate change.
Another pandemic, who knows, forces humanity to wake up and finally get it together.
Right.
And instead of retreating inward, like in downward spiral, we choose to unite, work together.
And that leads to
this incredible transformation. The report talks about a world that's focused on sustainability. Where everyone benefits, and we prioritize long-term well-being.
Wow, it almost sounds too good to be true.
It does sound idealistic, but it's not impossible.
Yeah.
The report highlights some key ingredients for this kind of positive future. Strong leadership. Shared values, a focus on the greater good.
So even when we're facing these, huge global challenges, this scenario shows just how powerful collective action can be.
Right. It's a reminder that we have choices.
Yeah.
The future isn't fixed.
We get to choose. Okay, so we've just taken this whirlwind tour of 4 very different futures for mining in 2050.
Yeah.
And now we got to go deeper. Let's explore what could actually make these scenarios reality.
Let's do it.
So stay tuned, because understanding these forces is key to navigating what's coming next.
The mining landscape of tomorrow.
That's right.
It's all connected. Welcome back to our deep dive.
Into the future of mining. That's right. We just looked at 4
radically different scenarios.
Everything from
trade wars
to
a world united by sustainability.
So now we got to zoom in on the things that are going to make
or break
these
different scenarios.
So what are the things that are going to tip the scales and decide what path we're actually on?
Well, the report actually identifies 5 key factors.
Key factors, okay.
That are going to be crucial in shaping the future of mining.
Okay, so let's break them down.
All right.
Factor number 1, technological innovation. I mean, we've already talked about some of the crazy,
mind-blowing advancements.
That are like on the horizon.
Yeah.
Robot miners, asteroid mining.
A whole wave of green tech.
So how does that, so technology, we all know, can like revolutionize whole industries.
Right.
But is that enough?
You're right. It's not just about inventing cool new stuff.
Right.
And that's why the report highlights factor number 2, societal acceptance.
Okay. Social license to operate. We've heard that term before.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
It basically means that communities need to see mining as something that benefits them.
Just
as a way for companies to take resources and leave a mess behind.
Gotcha.
It's about building trust. Engaging with local communities and proving that mining can be done responsibly.
So I'm picturing like mining companies sitting down with the communities before they even start digging.
Absolutely.
They're not just talking about jobs.
Right.
They're talking about, how's this mine going to benefit the local schools, the healthcare,
the environment. Yeah.
It's about true engagement.
That's what true engagement looks like.
Absolutely. And that brings us to factor number 3, policy.
Okay, policy. Policy is important for, like, everything, right?
Think of it this way.
Yeah.
Stable, predictable policies are like the foundation for a house.
Oh, okay.
Without a solid foundation, the whole thing's shaky.
And, mining projects, they last for decades.
Yeah. So if the rules are constantly changing.
Yeah, it creates a ton of uncertainty.
Yeah.
For companies.
They don't want to invest if they don't know what the rules are.
Exactly. And that can stifle innovation. Growth.
It's like playing a game where the rules keep changing.
Nobody knows how to win.
Right.
Okay, factor number 4, managing demand volatility. Remember the prices of minerals and metals?
They can go up and down.
They fluctuate wildly.
Like a roller coaster.
Yeah, it can make it really tough
for
mining companies to plan.
Yeah, they don't know what to expect.
The report suggests a couple of things that can help. Things like long-term contracts.
Okay.
Public procurement policies.
What does that mean?
So instead of just buying whatever's cheapest on the market at that moment,
right,
governments and companies commit
to buying a certain amount.
Yeah, at a set price over a longer period.
So it's like instead of renting, you're buying the house, basically.
It's more like signing a lease.
Okay.
Instead of just paying month to month.
Okay, I get it.
Creates more certainty for everybody.
It's about making things a little bit more
predictable.
Okay,
and then finally, factor number 5. International cooperation. Big one,
yeah. We've heard this theme throughout all these scenarios.
It runs through all 4.
It's like, are countries going to work together to solve these global challenges?
Or are they going to go it alone?
Prioritize
their own self-interests.
We saw how that plays out with the trade blocks.
Right, and not a recipe for success.
So the report is basically saying, look, some countries might be tempted to go it alone.
But the best path forward is finding a balance. It's about strengthening each country's own capabilities, but still working together on a global level to tackle
the big problems,
the big shared challenges.
It's like realizing we're all in the same boat, right?
You can try to paddle in different directions,
but you're going to get further if you work together. Okay, so now we've got these 5 factors.
Yeah.
Let's revisit the 4 scenarios.
Okay.
And see how they play out.
Let's do it.
So let's start with divided dominions. That scenario where we've got
the competing trade blocks
all battling it out.
Yeah.
What happens to those 5 factors in that world?
Well, technological innovation.
Yeah.
It suffers.
Why?
Because each block is hoarding its own advancements.
Like they're holding all the pieces of the puzzle, but nobody can put it together.
Yeah, it slows down progress for everybody.
And it's not just technology.
Right.
Societal acceptance is also a big problem.
Because countries are so focused on being self-sufficient,
Yeah.
there's less emphasis on things like
taking care of the environment.
environmental protection, working with local communities.
And if you're in that battle
Yeah.
for resources,
Yeah.
you're probably not thinking about the long-term consequences.
Exactly, and that lack of trust.
Between the industry and the people.
Between the mining industry and the communities.
Communities.
Yeah, it leads to all sorts of problems.
Yeah.
Makes it really hard to get new projects off the ground.
So divided dominions is basically
Lose-lose.
a lose-lose for everybody involved.
All right, what about policy? Policy, I'm guessing?
Unstable.
Unstable, yeah.
Policies are constantly shifting.
As these different blocks try to get one over?
Each block is trying to get an advantage over the rivals.
Yeah.
And that creates a ton of uncertainty for investors, for businesses.
So it hinders growth.
Exactly.
And then we got demand volatility. That's got to be just crazy in this scenario.
It's through the roof. Countries are using resources as leverage.
As weapons, almost.
As weapons, yeah.
Yeah.
It leads to wild price swings.
Yeah.
Disruptions in supply chains.
So in divided dominions, we've got low-tech innovation, low social acceptance,
Unstable policy.
unstable policy,
High demand volatility.
high demand volatility,
And very little
international cooperation.
international cooperation. Not a pretty picture
It's a warning about what can happen
when we don't work together.
when we choose division over collaboration,
Yeah.
prioritizing short-term gains over long-term well-being.
Okay, that was heavy. Let's talk about advancement wave. Remember, this is where technology is booming,
Booming.
but the benefits aren't being shared equally.
Right, so tech innovation,
It's definitely there.
it's flourishing.
It's flourishing. But, like we said,
There's that risk
the risk of widening the gap
between the haves and the have-nots.
between the haves and the have-nots. So it's not just about inventing the cool stuff. It's about making sure that everyone can benefit from it.
Absolutely, and that's where
Societal acceptance.
societal acceptance comes in.
Okay, so in this scenario, how are communities feeling about the mining industry?
Well, some communities are really embracing it because they see it as essential for this green tech revolution.
Oh, okay.
But in other communities,
Especially maybe in
particularly in developing countries,
developing countries, yeah.
there are still concerns about the environmental and social impacts.
So it's kind of this, double-edged sword.
Right.
Technology is great.
Yeah.
It can bring amazing benefits.
But it can also create new inequalities.
Yeah, if we're not careful.
Okay, policy. Bit of a mixed bag in this one.
Okay.
So within those powerful trade blocs,
Wow.
you've got more stable policies
Okay.
supporting innovation.
Supporting innovation
Supporting investment
in mining sector, but between the blocks,
between the blocks.
you still got that geopolitical tension.
So there's progress,
Yeah.
but we're not seeing that full global cooperation.
Not yet.
And what about demand volatility?
It's actually less of an issue
Than in divided dominion.
than in divided dominions. Yeah.
Okay.
Overall demand is strong. It's relatively stable.
Okay.
But you've still got some price fluctuations driven by speculation
Right.
and occasional disruptions, climate change things.
So advancement wave. High technological innovation, but it's uneven.
Yeah.
Social acceptance is mixed bag.
Policies are kind of okay within the blocks, but
There's still tension between them.
there's still tension. Demand volatility is there, but overall demand's pretty strong.
Yeah.
And international cooperation
Still limited.
still limited. So progress,
Yeah.
but
But with caveats.
with some big caveats.
It shows that just focusing on tech isn't enough.
Yeah.
We need to address those deeper issues.
Of equity and cooperation
Exactly.
if we want a truly sustainable future.
And now for the scenario we all want to avoid. Downward spiral. Resource nationalism.
Resource nationalism.
leads to a whole bunch of problems.
Yeah. How do those 5 factors play out in this world gone wrong?
Well, tech innovation,
It's probably not looking good.
it takes a back seat
Takes a backseat. Why?
because countries are so focused on controlling their own resources.
Yeah.
They're not investing in research and development.
Nobody's working together.
There's no collaboration, no knowledge sharing.
So it's like they're trying to reinvent the wheel all the time
Yeah, it's like going back to horses and buggies instead of investing in electric vehicles.
because they're worried about the lithium.
Yeah, worried about who controls the lithium.
Makes sense.
It's a classic example of cutting off your nose to spite your face.
And then societal acceptance.
Practically non-existent.
It's hard to imagine anyone trusting mining companies in that world.
The industry is seen as a polluter, a destroyer, something that only benefits the elite.
Yeah.
And when you have that kind of public distrust,
Yeah.
It's almost impossible to operate effectively.
And policy, I imagine it's just a free-for-all.
It's chaotic. Policies are constantly changing.
To grab more resources.
To grab as much control as they can.
As much control as they can.
They're squeezing every last drop of value out of those resources.
Yeah.
And it creates a really hostile environment for businesses, for investors.
So no stability, no predictability.
Yep.
Just reinforces those negative trends.
Exactly. And then demand volatility.
Through the roof.
Off the charts.
Off the chart.
Countries are slapping export bans on resources.
They're hoarding everything.
Hoarding whatever they can get their hands on.
Yeah.
Basically using them as weapons.
In a global economic war.
Yeah. Recipe for disaster.
So, downward spiral. Low technological innovation. Basically no social acceptance.
Unstable policies.
Unstable policies.
Demand volatility's gone haywire.
And a complete lack of
international cooperation. Worst case scenario.
Yeah. It really shows how if we don't work together, things can get
really bad.
Really bad.
Wait, let's end on a positive note.
Let's cleanse our palates.
Talk about the great transition, the one where we actually managed to
get our act together. How do those 5 factors play out?
In this much brighter future.
In this brighter future, yeah.
Well, technological innovation takes off. Because countries are finally willing to share knowledge.
Work together.
And because sustainability is like
the driving
force. You see these incredible advancements in things like
renewable energy,
recycling, resource efficiency.
Like the world finally woke up and said,
we're all in this together.
And
because of that shift in thinking, societal acceptance of mining
goes up.
Skyrockets.
Okay.
Companies are no longer seen as the bad guys.
They're seen as partners.
Partners in building this sustainable future.
They're working closely with communities.
Yeah.
Making sure that everybody benefits.
And minimizing that environmental impact.
So it's really changing the narrative around mining.
Exactly. Transforming mining companies from extractors
into partners,
yeah.
And in this world, policy is
stable.
Supportive. Because there's that global consensus.
Yeah.
Okay. And demand volatility, is that still an issue?
It's still there. But it's much more manageable.
Go.
There are global mechanisms in place.
To make sure that, things don't get too crazy.
To ensure a steady supply of essential resources.
And countries aren't using these resources
as weapons
anymore.
So the great transition.
We've figured it out.
We figured out how to cooperate, how to manage resources responsibly.
For everyone's benefit.
High-tech innovation.
Strong societal acceptance.
Stable policies.
Manageable demand volatility.
And a spirit of global cooperation.
It's a powerful reminder.
That a better future is possible.
If we make the right choices.
So
how do we actually get there?
That's the question.
You're right. The report doesn't just leave us hanging.
They give us some answers.
They offer some compelling insights. Into what we can do to steer ourselves towards that better future.
So that's what we're going to be exploring.
In the final part. Of this deep dive.
All right, welcome back to the deep dive. We've been on quite a journey.
We have.
Explored 4 different futures for mining. And
uncover these 5 key factors that could really
determine which path we end up on.
I mean, we saw how things could go really wrong.
Yeah.
But we also got a glimpse of
a brighter future.
So the big question is, what can we actually do to make sure we end up on that path?
Toward a better future.
Towards a better future, yeah. The report doesn't just leave us hanging, does it?
It doesn't. It actually offers some concrete steps that governments, businesses,
even individuals
can take to build a more sustainable and equitable mining industry. Think of it as a roadmap.
Okay, a roadmap? I like that.
You're right.
So where do we even begin?
Well, it starts by highlighting the importance of research and development.
R&D.
It calls for strong public support for R&D in mining, materials processing.
So we're talking about investing in the future, right?
Yeah.
Giving innovators the resources they need to come up with those game-changing technologies.
Exactly. To make mining more efficient, less harmful.
So are there any, real-world examples of this already happening?
Yeah, actually, the report mentions this really interesting collaboration between the U.S., the EU, Japan, and South Korea. They're pooling their resources to develop new technologies for the mining industry.
It's like proof that when countries work together,
they
can achieve amazing things. Okay, so Beyond R&D, what else can we do to create a more sustainable mining industry? I mean, we talked earlier about social license to operate.
Right.
Making sure that mining benefits communities, not just
corporations.
What does the report say about that?
It really emphasizes this point. It says we need to revamp the entire permitting process for mining projects.
The permitting process?
Yeah. Right now, it can be this long, complicated, bureaucratic
maze. Yeah.
Which just breeds distrust.
Nobody knows what's going on.
And it makes it hard for communities to have a real say.
So the system needs a serious overhaul.
It does.
How would that even work?
The report suggests making the rules crystal clear.
Okay.
The decision-making more objective, and the whole process
streamlined.
Much more efficient.
Okay.
It's about creating a system that's fair, transparent, and makes sense.
Makes sense to everyone involved.
Exactly.
But even with a, better process, we still got to make sure that the communities are seeing actual benefits, right?
Absolutely. It's not just about getting a project approved.
Yeah.
It's about making sure that mining actually contributes to the well-being of those communities.
Okay, so what does the report recommend?
It recommends establishing clear guidelines for engaging with communities throughout the entire process.
So instead of just showing up, digging a hole, and leaving,
right,
they're actually involved.
They're actively involved in supporting things like local schools, healthcare, environmental protection.
It's really about changing the entire narrative.
Yeah, transforming mining companies from extractors into partners.
Okay. And let's talk about this. Minimizing that cyclical nature of the mining industry and making these investments
less risky.
Yeah.
The report suggests a few strategies.
Okay.
One idea is to use more long-term contracts.
Okay.
Offtake agreements.
What are those?
So that's where buyers commit to purchasing a certain amount of resources at a set price over a longer period.
It's like more security.
More security.
More predictability.
Exactly. And governments can play a big role here by using their purchasing power.
How so?
Imagine if governments prioritized buying steel and concrete that's made from recycled materials.
Okay.
That would send a powerful signal to the market.
It's like using their influence to
steer the industry,
yeah.
in the right direction.
The report also mentions something called metal-backed exchange-traded funds.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I don't really know what that is.
Think of it like investing in gold, but instead of buying gold bars, you're investing in a basket of essential metals.
So it's like a more stable way to
spread out the risk.
Okay. So we talked about R&D, social license to operate, managing demand volatility. But we still need
international cooperation.
That's
the glue that holds it all together.
So what can we do on that front?
The report makes a strong case for strengthening multilateral cooperation.
Okay.
It points to existing platforms like the G7, the Minerals Security Partnership.
Okay.
These groups bring together governments, businesses, stakeholders.
Let's talk about the big issues.
Yeah, they can help develop sustainability standards, promote transparency.
Support responsible mining.
Around the world.
And they can, help build trust.
Foster dialogue. Between countries.
Which is so important.
Crucial for finding solutions.
They work for everyone.
Exactly. The report also highlights the need for creative financing. To support strategic projects, particularly in developing countries. Things like pooled funding mechanisms, state guarantees.
Okay.
These can help reduce the risk for investors.
So it makes those projects more appealing.
It's about finding ways to share the responsibility.
Yeah.
Make sure that everyone has a chance to benefit.
And finally, the report emphasizes this.
Yeah.
The importance of a long-term perspective.
Yeah.
We need to stop thinking in these short-term
political cycles,
yeah, and think about the world we want to create
for future generations.
Yeah, that's a tall order.
It is,
especially in today's world
where everything feels so immediate. Yeah,
but it's so essential.
If we want to create a truly sustainable future,
it's about making those tough choices today,
even if they're not popular,
because we know it'll be worth it.
Yeah, the long-term benefits outweigh the short-term costs.
So this roadmap for a more sustainable mining industry, it's pretty comprehensive.
It is.
It really all boils down to this. The future is not preordained.
We have a choice.
It's
shaped by the choices we make today.
And if we prioritize sustainability, equity, and cooperation,
we can create a mining industry that benefits everyone. And helps build a brighter future.
For our planet.
So as you go about your day,
think
about the choices you make.
the things you buy,
the companies you support,
the conversations you have.
It all has an impact.
Which future
Will you choose?
This has been The Deep Dive. Thanks for listening.